Humanoid robots aren't coming to take over in 10 years. They're already walking into our homes and factories right now. These aren't those clunky robots from a decade ago that could barely walk without falling over. They can move, adapt, learn new tasks, and in some cases, even interact with us in surprisingly human-like ways. So today, we will take a look at 12 of the most realistic AI-powered humanoid robots of 2026. And trust me, some of them are seriously going to make you do a double take. What if the hardest part of building a humanoid robot isn't teaching it to walk, but teaching you to believe it's listening? That's the problem 26-year-old Yu Hung Hu decided to solve. In 2024, while pursuing his PhD at Columbia University, Hu founded Shanghai startup Aheadform, focusing on something most humanoid companies weren't prioritizing yet, making a robot face actually feel human. In September 2025, Aheadform posted a 1-minute video of Origin M1, and the comments immediately split between most realistic robot face ever and I had to close the tab. M1 uses up to 25 miniature motors for facial movement, RGB cameras hidden inside the pupils for gaze tracking, plus microphones and speakers for real-time interaction. Its AI combines language and vision models, allowing it to process what it sees and hears together, and the result is unsettlingly effective. The robot isn't doing anything spectacular. It's just looking at you, following your gaze, and changing its expression. Hu's research goes directly into that. His doctoral work explored how robots could learn realistic facial behavior rather than having every movement manually programmed. One project trained a robot to learn lip sync by watching its own reflection and analyzing hours of video. His earlier robot, Emo, even appeared in Bloomberg's Post-Human, where his mentor, roboticist Hod Lipson, admitted that when Emo smiles at him, he automatically smiles back. He knows it's a machine, but his brain reacts anyway. Then came Origin F1 in early 2026. Instead of building one fixed robotic identity, Aheadform introduced character skins, allowing the same platform to take on different appearances and personalities. F1 has 26 degrees of freedom, along with visual perception, face recognition, and speech synthesis. In March, Aheadform demonstrated F1 changing characters and even singing, followed by another demo focused almost entirely on eye contact. By WIKE 2026 in Shanghai, Origin had become one of those robots people kept stopping to film. But here's the catch. Origin isn't a full humanoid robot. M1 and F1 are modular platforms designed for research, human-robot interaction, entertainment, and high-end displays. They don't walk, work in factories, or perform household tasks, and there are no large-scale real-world deployments yet. Honest verdict. If we're judging the face alone, Aheadform is one of the best in the game. But a convincing face is still only one piece of the humanoid puzzle. The real test is what happens when you put that face on a body that can actually move. Origin can make you believe a robot is looking at you, but there's a big difference between a convincing demo and a robot that's been doing it in front of thousands of actual people. And that's where Amica changes the story. Before the current wave of humanoid startups turned realistic robots into a billion-dollar race, one British company had already spent years figuring out how to make a machine feel strangely human. Engineered Arts started the Amica project in February 2021, and when the first video went viral that December, the robot hadn't even met a live audience. Its first public appearance came at CES 2022, and there's an interesting detail in the design. Amica is deliberately genderless because Engineered Arts wanted it to be a universal human-robot interaction platform rather than a specific character. The current full-size Amica, Generation 2.6, stands 1,870 millimeters tall and weighs 62 kilos on its static pedestal. It has 61 actuated movements, 27 in the face alone, 8 megapixel cameras in each eye, binaural and chest microphones, LiDAR sensors, and runs on Tritium OS with support for major AI models. But there's one thing missing: a battery. No battery, no legs, no walking speed. And here's something worth flagging: AI-generated reference. Sites have been describing an Amica Generation 3 that supposedly walks and has an 8-hour battery. Engineered Art's own specifications don't support that. Generation 3 and the desktop sibling, AMI, were shown at ICRA 2025, but the walking Ameca claim appears to be synthetic. So if you see it repeated, check the source. The commercial record, though, is genuine. Engineered Art says more than 200 robots have been deployed across 3 continents, with Ameca units appearing in museums, universities, and brand activations. Private pricing is roughly $250,000 per unit, while a San Diego charter school network reportedly paid around $500,000 for 2. And Engineered Arts has been building robots for more than 20 years. Honest verdict: Ameca can't walk, isn't autonomous, and needs a power cable, but it's been standing in front of real people for years, and that's something a viral demo can't fake. But Ameca still has to wait for you to come to it. What happens when a robot finally gets a body built for actual work? While most humanoid companies were obsessed with making robots walk, Sanctuary AI made a different bet: make the hands good enough to actually work. The Vancouver company put its focus on hydraulic actuators, tactile sensing, and dexterous hands, with 20 degrees of freedom in each hand. Its carbon control system was designed to learn new tasks in roughly 24 hours, and by Generation 7 in April 2024, CEO Jordy Rose called Phoenix the system most closely analogous to a person that anyone had built. And honestly, the hands were impressive. They could manipulate objects in ways that many walking humanoids still struggled with. But then, the business side caught up. Sanctuary went through layoffs and a CEO departure during 2024 and 2025, while Generation 8 moved away from legs entirely and onto a wheeled base. The company had decided bipedal locomotion was simply too fragile for the work it wanted Phoenix to do. And in June 2026, Sanctuary made the biggest change of all. Phoenix stopped being the product. The company shifted towards selling its physical AI software to run on other companies' robots, with the hydraulic hands remaining a separate technology still in development. Honest verdict: Phoenix was never actually sold as a finished consumer robot, and there was never a confirmed retail price. So if you see a specific Phoenix price online, I'd be skeptical. The interesting part isn't that the engineering failed, it's that Sanctuary changed its mind about what was worth commercializing. They made a real bet, discovered where the business wasn't working, and changed direction. But Phoenix isn't the only famous humanoid whose reputation is bigger than its actual capabilities. Our next robot has been famous for almost 10 years, and somehow everyone already knows her name. You don't need an introduction for this one. You've probably already seen her face. Walt Disney sculptor David Hansen left the company in 2001, earned a PhD in interactive arts, and started Hansen Robotics out of his garage in 2005. Sophia was activated on February 14, 2016, Valentine's Day, deliberately. Within a year, she had appeared on Good Morning Britain, 60 Minutes, and The Tonight Show, and even addressed the United Nations. Then, on October 25, 2017, she became the first robot to be granted citizenship by a country when Saudi Arabia gave her citizenship. The hardware is real. Sophia has 83 degrees of freedom, cameras in each eye, and Hansen's patented Frubber skin designed to mimic the texture and movement of human skin. Her face was modeled partly after Audrey Hepburn, but the criticism is real too. In 2018, Jan LeCun publicly dismissed Sophia's AI as hype, while reviewers who examined the underlying technology argued that the impressive face could make the system appear far more intelligent than it actually was. More than 150 researchers even signed a letter criticizing the idea of giving robots human-like legal status. And nearly a decade later, the biggest limitation is still there. The 2026 version is being positioned as a more deployable platform for venues and research, but the hardware available through distributors remains essentially the familiar head and torso setup. Around 28 degrees of freedom in the body, roughly 21 kilos, and mounted on a wheeled tripod. No legs. No independent evidence of a completely new walking Sophia. Honest verdict: Sophia proves something important. You don't need a fully capable humanoid to capture the world's attention. A convincing face, a good story, and enough media exposure can take a robot incredibly far. And that's exactly where things get interesting. Because Sophia made the face famous, but another company had already spent years figuring out how to build that face for practically anyone. What if you could take a real person, scan their face and body, and then build a robot that looked specifically like them? That's basically the idea behind Mesmer. Engineered Arts was founded in 2004 in Falmouth, Cornwall, and Mesmer became its customizable, full-size humanoid platform. Instead of creating one generic android, the company can scan a real person and engineer the robot's structure, skin, and facial features around them. The result is a machine designed to look like a specific human, rather than just a convincing robot. The head has 27 individually controllable motors, with around 25 facial degrees of freedom, according to Engineered Arts and its published research. It runs on the same Tritium operating system used across the company's range, allowing integration with modern AI models rather than forcing the robot to rely on one fixed system. But Mesmer's biggest advantage isn't a specification, it's that it's actually a product. Museums rent it, brands rent it, universities use it. Engineered Arts says more than 200 robots have been deployed across 3 continents, and the company has been building and selling humanoid systems since 2004, long before most of today's robotics startups existed. Honest verdict: Mesmer is static. It sits, talks, looks at you, and makes expressions, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's a character, not an agent. But it's a character that has spent thousands of hours in front of real audiences, and that's a test most flashy prototypes haven't passed. Mesmer is Engineered Arts proving it can build a convincing face for someone else. But the next company basically decided the face was the entire problem worth solving. But the next 2 robots take the opposite approach, because instead of obsessing over what a robot's face looks like, they're focused on what the body can actually do. On November 5th, 2025, a car company put a robot on stage and the internet accused them of fraud. The robot walked. Not the stiff, knees-locked shuffle every humanoid does. An actual hip-swinging catwalk, shoulders counter-rotating, weight rolling through the foot. Within hours, the comments had decided, that's a person in a suit. It got loud enough that He Xiaopeng eventually had a second iron brought out and cut open in front of the audience to show the machinery underneath. Elon Musk saw the footage and weighed in. That reaction is the whole point. Xpeng built iron around a biomimetic spine and an artificial muscle system wrapped in flexible skin. With 22 degrees of freedom in each hand, a solid-state battery, and a curved display where the face should be. They weren't chasing a lifelike face, they were chasing a lifelike walk. And they got closer than anyone expected, which is why people refuse to believe it. Now hold that thought, because 800 miles south, a Shenzhen company decided human-like meant something completely different. Astrobot, from Stardust Intelligence, founded December 2022, looked at the race for legs and walked away from it. The S1 has no legs at all. It rides a wheeled base. What it has instead is speed, arms hitting roughly 10 meters per second at the end effector, while holding about 1/10 of a millimeter of repeatability. Watch the footage and your brain insists the video is sped up. It isn't. 2 7-degree of freedom arms, around 5 kilos of payload each at full reach, and a system that learns by watching a human do the task and working out what actually mattered. 2 robots, 2 opposite answers. Iron is trying to move like us. The S1 gave up on that entirely and went after moving faster than us. Honest verdict: neither one is finished. Iron isn't for sale. Mass production is targeted for the end of 2026, with the first deployments as shop assistants in Xpeng's own stores penciled in for early 2027, and in early factory trials, the hands reportedly didn't survive a month of repetitive work. A walk with no product, speed with no legs, which is exactly why the next robot matters, because it's already clocking in. Forget the face for a second. This one has a job. UB Tech was founded in Shenzhen in 2012 and holds well over 2,450 robotics and AI patents. Walker S2 launched in July 2025, 176 centimeters, 73 kilos, 52 degrees of freedom, 15 kilos of payload, walking at 2 meters per second, with 4th generation dexterous hands. But the headline feature isn't dexterity, it's the battery. Walker S2 is the first humanoid that swaps its own own batteries. It detects a low charge, walks itself to a docking station, and changes packs in about 3 minutes while running on the backup. No human involved. That single feature converts a robot from an 8-hour asset into a 24-hour one. And the orders are real. Mass production and delivery began in mid-November 2025, with a backlog over 800 million yuan, about $112 million, from Foxconn, NIO, BYD, Zeekr, and Geely. UB Tech is targeting 5,000 units of annual capacity in 2026. In 2026, the robots also started moving beyond factories into port and border facility roles, doing queue guidance and cargo checks. Honest verdict, Walker S2 is an industrial equipment with 2 legs, priced somewhere in the range of $68,000 to $120,000, depending on configuration. The efficiency figures, the 120% sorting improvements, the 65% labor cost reductions, come from UB Tech, not from an independent auditor. Treat them accordingly. Walker S2 costs about as much as a house deposit. Our next robot broke that wall, and then buried the catch in the fine print. Unitree is the reason humanoid robots stopped being a 6-figure conversation. The G1 is the one you've watched get bullied on TikTok. Kicked, shoved, hit with sticks, standing straight back up. Roughly chest height, folds down like a stroller, and priced from around $13,500. To prove the hardware, Unitree flew one to Xinjiang's Altai region in minus 47 degrees Celsius, wrapped its legs in plastic, and logged 130,000 autonomous steps through deep snow. The H2 is the grown-up version. Launched October 2025, 180 to 182 centimeters, around 70 kilos, roughly 31 degrees of freedom, 360 Newton meters of leg torque, backflip capable, and, unusually for Unitree, a sculpted face with animated eyes. The H1 that preceded it reached end of life in March 2026. At Computex in June 2026, Unitree announced the H2 Plus at $100,000 as NVIDIA's first Isaac GR00T reference humanoid, and the company's Shanghai IPO was approved the same day. Now the fine print, because this is where Unitree gets slippery. The H2's headline price is $29,900, one of the only genuine public list prices in the entire industry. But that base unit ships with non-functional placeholder hands, cannot be upgraded to dexterous hands, and gives you no SDK. Want to actually program it? That's the quote-only EDU edition. North American buyers go through a regional partner starting around $40,900, with EDU from $68,900. And in mid-2026, the store listing was showing out of stock and routing buyers to sales. Honest verdict, Unitree genuinely cracked the price wall, and that matters more than anything else on this list for the long term. But the advertised number and the number you pay are different numbers, and the gap is thousands of dollars wide. That's the cheapest real robot in the world. Now let's talk about the most expensive robot in the world that nobody has actually seen. Here's the situation, stated plainly. As of the time of this recording, Optimus Gen 3 has not been revealed. The reveal was originally set for Q1 2026. On March 31st, Musk said the robot was walking around the offices but needed finishing touches. In April, Tesla's Q1 earnings call pushed the reveal to late July or SG, with Musk explaining the secrecy directly. Competitors analyze Tesla's footage frame by frame and copy it. There's also a naming trap most videos get wrong. Gen 3 originally referred to the upgraded hands, 22 degrees of freedom, 50 actuators, tendon-driven with the motors moved into the forearm, fitted to a Gen 2 body. V3 is the actual new robot. They are not the same milestone, and half the spec sheets online mix them up. What Tesla itself has stated about V3, a ground-up redesign, 37 joints, 9 more than the previous generation, harmonic and planetary drives, 1.2 meters per second walking speed, stable on 15-degree slopes, the AI 5 chip, Grok for voice. Everything else, battery life, weight, real price, is unannounced. The manufacturing story is the genuinely serious part. Tesla ended Model S and Model X production in May 2026 after 14 years and is converting that Fremont line to build Optimus, targeting 1 million units a year. A second facility at Giga Texas is planned for 2027. Honest verdict, every Optimus Gen 3 full specs article online is recycled Gen 2 numbers or pure invention. Musk himself admitted in January 2026 that 0 Optimus units were doing useful work in Tesla's own factories, which raises the obvious question. Tesla can build 1 million of anything, but building isn't shipping, and while the biggest company in the field is still shooting footage in secret, someone else already walked a humanoid through a stranger's front door. Yes, and you can order one. 1X Technologies, Norwegian founded, now based in Palo Alto, led by Bernick, backed partly by the OpenAI startup fund, opened pre-orders for Neo in late October 2025. $20,000 outright or $499 a month on a $200 refundable deposit. On May 1st, 2026, 1X opened its Hayward, California factory, billed as America's first vertically integrated humanoid plant, reportedly over 10,000 units reserved. Neo is about 5'6" and roughly 30 kilos, wrapped in a soft knit cover rather than a hard shell, a deliberate choice to make it feel less like a machine in your kitchen. 22 degrees of freedom in the hands, around 4 hours of battery, docking itself when low. NVIDIA Jetson Thor on board. It answers the door, fetches things, turns off lights, and then there's expert mode. When Neo doesn't know how to do something, a human teleoperator at 1X connects and drives the robot for you. Every teleoperated correction becomes a labeled training example, which is how 1X plans to reach autonomy, estimating roughly 60 to 70% autonomous operation in 2026, with full autonomy targeted years out. 1X offers no-go zones, time restrictions, face blurring, audio masking, and background checked operators. Would you let a remote operator drive a robot around your house to teach it? 20 grand, and it gets better every month. Tell me in the comments, I read them. Neo got into the home first by admitting a human is still holding the controls. The next robot on this list refuses to ship until nobody is. Figure 03 launched in October 2025, and the design brief was the opposite of Figure 02's. 02 was the stealth bomber look, matte black, industrial, built for the BMW Spartanburg line. 03 is built for your house. It's 1.68 meters and 60 kilos, 9% lighter than its predecessor, and the hard shell is gone entirely. In its place, soft, washable textiles and multi-density foam over every joint, specifically engineered so the robot can't pinch you or scuff your furniture. Named to Time's best inventions. The hands are where the engineering shows. 44 degrees of freedom total, with fingertip sensors that register about 3 grams of pressure. Palm cameras, 60% wider field of view than 02. It charges wirelessly through its feet at 2 kilowatts, offloads data over millimeter wave at 10 gigabits per second, and the new battery runs around 5 hours. The brain is Helix, Figure's own vision language action model, running pixels to action. And note that word, own. The OpenAI partnership that everyone cited about Figure 02 ended. Figure builds its AI in-house now. Manufacturing runs through their BotQ facility, with capacity quoted at 12,000 units a year. By March 2026, Figure was reporting 8 autonomous cleaning skills demonstrated in trials: wiping, sweeping, mopping, vacuuming, dusting, and so on. Honest verdict, you cannot buy one. There are no pre-orders. Brett Adcock has said publicly that consumer release waits until the robot can do most household tasks autonomously all day, which is the right bar and a very high one. Estimates put current build costs near $150,000 against a long-term target under $20,000. Figure 03 is the most complete home robot ever designed, but it hasn't yet done the one thing that proves a robot is real. It doesn't have a face. It's not trying to look like you. And it's number one anyway, for a reason none of the others can touch. First, the machine. The hydraulic Atlas, the backflips, the parkour, the hockey sticks, was retired in April 2024 and never sold to anyone. The production Atlas, unveiled at CES 2026 on January 5th, is a different robot, with the first real spec sheet Boston Dynamics has ever published. 1.9 meters, 90 kilos, 56 degrees of freedom, a self-swapping battery good for about 4 hours, tactile sensors in human-sized hands, a 360-degree camera, 50 kilos of lift, rated from -20 to +40 Celsius. It can rotate its hips and head a full 360 degrees to pick up something behind it without turning around. It won Best Robot at CES 2026. CEO Robert Plater's line at the launch was short: "The best robot they've ever built." 30 years in, that's a claim with weight behind it. The partnerships are the real story. The entire 2026 production run is already committed to Hyundai's Robotics Metaplant Application Center and to Google DeepMind, which is integrating its Gemini robotics models into Atlas's perception stack. Hyundai has owned Boston Dynamics since 2020 and is investing $26 billion in U.S. robotics infrastructure, including a factory targeting 30,000 Atlas units a year by 2028. Hyundai Mobis builds the actuators in-house, and actuators are more than 60% of a humanoid's material cost. Nobody else has that vertical integration. In May 2026, Atlas was shown carrying a 100-pound load using skills learned through reinforcement learning. In early July, it handed the match ball to the referee at the FIFA World Cup. And then, days later, the thing that actually makes it #1. In late June, members of the Korean Metalworkers Union voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike. On July 13th, workers at Hyundai's Ulsan complex, the largest car plant on Earth, began walking out early. By July 20th, it escalated to 4-hour partial stoppages per shift. Wages and profit sharing were part of it. But the union's central demand was specific. No robot enters a Hyundai workplace without a prior labor management agreement. Around 35,000 workers, affecting roughly half of Hyundai's global output. The Wall Street Journal called it the car industry's first stoppage over humanoids. Honest verdict: you can't buy one yet. External customers start in early 2027. There's no public price. Actual production line deployment in Georgia isn't scheduled until 2028, expanding to component assembly by 2030. So today's Metaplant work is a pilot, and the 30,000 unit figure is planned capacity, not output. Anyone telling you Atlas is already staffing factories is ahead of the record. But here's why it takes the top spot. Every other robot on this list is realistic in the sense that it looks like us, or moves like us, or talks like us. Atlas is realistic in the only sense that ultimately counts. 35,000 people stopped working because of it. No face has ever done that. Sophia got a passport and it changed nothing. Atlas got a job and half a country's auto production stopped. That's the line this year crossed. 12 robots. 4 of them you can't buy. 3 of them haven't been shown. 2 of them come from companies that already changed what they were selling. The gap between the promo video and the product is still enormous, but it's narrowing, and 2026 is the year it started narrowing in ways that show up in labor negotiations instead of comment sections. So tell me, which one would you actually let into your house, and which one would you refuse? Drop it below. And if the strike at the end of this one got your attention, click here, because the question of what happens to the jobs is about to get much louder, much faster than anyone planned for.